Hey folks, let's jump into it. ARMS hasn't been seeing a whole bunch of love as far as rating goes, and yet here we are starting to get back in the conversation. Makes me really excited. Makes me think back to where we were about mid Legion when when you started to confidently be able to raid between either spec. So with that being said, let's look at the build really quick. Tier 1, we're going with Skull Splitter. Tier 2, Double Time. Tier 3, Massacre. Tier 4, Defensive Stance. Tier 5, Warbreaker. Tier 6, Avatar. Tier 7, Dreadnought, but there's a lot of options on the table there. Alright, so just back it down a little bit, there's a couple points of conversation that we need to have here. Tier 3, you can actually go with Massacre if you're Venthyr, because Condemn is just glorious. Or alternatively, you can go with Rend if you're non-Venthyr, and that's a little bit of a change. We usually don't pull away from Massacre very often. Rend becomes a little bit more attractive with an addition of 10% extra crit damage. It'd be more useful with slightly higher crit rating. The damage of the Rend dot itself is still good. It's not ideal for Mythic Plus, but if you're going single target for rating, this will start to get pretty competitive. Now, on to Tier 4. Defensive Stance actually sees a little bit of competition here. Occasionally, you'll see someone take Second Wind, and it's kind of inconsistent because I'm almost always eating a dot or some damage, but certain abilities don't stop the healing while some do with Second Wind. A trackable buff for Second Wind has been added to 9.1, and it makes it easier to see when the healing's active. So start to play around with that a little bit if it's new to you. I'm not giving up my defensive stance by any means personally, but that's just me. Tier 5, we kind of mentioned, Warbreaker is just the solid default choice now that it applies deep wounds. Warbreaker is the way to go. Tier 6, this is Avatar again, just easy, easy, solid damage. Nice to have a really good cooldown, and if you're using the Signet of Tormented Kings legendary, this works really smooth. Now, Tier 7 is where we have a bit of discussion. Dreadnought's really strong from a multi target perspective, especially when you pair it up with something like Cleave. So, what we said, hey, we're not going to be doing multi target. We're here and we're primarily diving into what's right in front of us. There is a couple plays though. So, if you're Venthyr, you can actually take Ravager, and that's a little bit of a change. Um, but if you've got the Signet of Tormented Kings legendary, this basically allows you to drop more damage quicker. It it the activation of Ravager right off the bat will proc Bladestorm, Recklessness, Avatar, whatever it is, um, of the other abilities that are on the table. So that actually gets a little bit exciting if you're on the Venthyr side. Now, from a Covenant perspective, I'm still incredibly biased. I feel like Venthyr complements itself so much. Um, but Night Fae in 9.1 is really starting to step away from the pack. Arms won't be as competitive as Fury in 9.1, so don't don't take this to heart if you're thinking of playing either or thinking about min-maxing. Um, but if you're looking to push what the best option would be for rating, Night Fae would be your Covenant. Now, finally, just jumping back down to Legendaries, Enduring Blow is the strongest legendary choice going into 9.1. It's got good random generation. The legendary can result in fairly competitive damage on pure single target fights, and it can proc from follow up Mortal Strike hits coming from Mortal Combo Conduit. So, real easy play on itself there. Signet of Tormented Kings continues to be a great choice for AoE. If you're choosing that legendary, you usually promote the use of avatar talent, basically in order to proc it more often. If you can play around with it in single target, it'll take some getting used to, but again, it's still a lot of fun. For arms, kind of excited to see where this goes next. We're definitely going to have a few challenges directly in front of us, but ultimately, as long as you are prioritizing loading up on as much crit and verse as possible, you're going to be in great shape. Basically, haste is the lowest stat we're going to worry about. That might be the other way to say it. So your stat priority: strength, crit, verse, mastery, and haste, in that order. Alright folks, I hope you have a bunch of fun with arms in 9.1. I think Sanctum of Domination is going to be a ton of fun. Good luck and enjoy yourselves. Talk to you soon. Later.